welcome to WSGI 1100 AM. You are listening to The Go Show with Lee Marie, the Wild Doc, and Pat Samler will be joining us soon. Today is Friday, and you may be wondering, what are you doing there on a Friday? But the very first Friday of every month, we have Wild Doc coming in all the way from Clarksville. Good morning and welcome. Morning. So glad you can make it.
I'm glad to be here.
All right, I need to do a quick prayer. Oh, Heavenly Father, thank you so much for today. Thank you for all of our blessings. Please keep us in your perfect will with your perfect timing. Please give us your wisdom and your discernment. And your word says to be anxious for nothing, and we need to just embrace that. We love you. We praise you in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
All right, and here's Miss Pat Samler.
She made it.
Yoo-hoo. All right. I love First Fridays. I tell you, there's nothing better. So excited to have the Wild Doc here because I have had some questions coming in. One was about ringing in the ears. The other one was about hysterectomies. So, and then of course, anything that the Lord guides you to bring up you are more than welcome to do that. So I will cover calendar items a little bit later, but just know that today is the last Friday of the First Friday markets. So this is October, and they run from May to October. So this is it. Come on out tonight, 6 o'clock. Do all your Christmas shopping here locally, so you don't have to buy that expensive gas. As if you didn't know, gas is going way up. So fill up all those tanks. But coming out to the First Friday market tonight is going to be a blast. Great bands and great vendors. And, of course, the GOP booth will be there and the TFA booth as well. That's where I will be hanging out. So I will see you tonight. And then later on today, I'm going to tell you about all the millions of things going on tomorrow because there are a ton of things, including getting your picture with piglets. Oh, my goodness. But anyways.
Come to my farm.
All right. All right. We had an invitation.
We got
there.
mini pigs out there.
Oh.
So we got 3 of them.
You could charge people, you know that.
Right. 2 miniature donkeys, miniature pigs, 2 Highland cows.
Oh, how fun.
A couple steers.
All right. So I will get off of calendar items and go straight into Wild Doc. So what do you want to start with?
Well, I think the most lengthy would actually be the hysterectomy question.
Okay.
And I think I've got a lot of information on that. And
okay.
I think I would point people towards, I did a video several years ago.
Okay.
Talking specifically, kind of what spurred it on was the situation with Angelina Jolie. Do you remember that? Like I have it here in front of me, the Angelina effect. Oh. And basically there's a Time magazine cover. Angelina Jolie's double mastectomy puts genetic testing in the spotlight. What her choice reveals about calculating risk, costs, and peace of mind. And man, I just said, you know what? I do not believe that women should have preventive mastectomies, having their breasts removed, and I do not believe women should have preventive hysterectomies, even if they have the BRCA1 and 2 gene mutations. There's ways to actually upregulate with nutrition and herbs and lifestyle, upregulate the expression of those genes. And it may sound confusing to many people because many people think, well, if I have the BRCA1 and 2 gene, isn't that the gene that causes cancer? No, it's not. Those genes actually, when mutated or damaged, then they're not able to express themselves efficiently, and they're not able to actually allow cells to undergo apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. So you actually want to increase the expression of those genes. So it's about mutation, and it's about improper or poor expression of those genes. So that's what she had. And obviously if her situation, or in her situation, I guess her mother had died, I believe, from, I think, ovarian cancer. And so there was that fear, like, I don't want to follow the same path. So, getting the genetic testing and going that route, and then having, reproductive organ removed and breast removed, she thought she was going in the right direction. And it's sad because, if I find it along the way, one of the doctors, like here is the article, one of the articles from Reuters News back in, it was 2015. Cancer experts laud Angelina Jolie's decision to remove her ovaries. 2 years after the double mastectomy, actress Angelina Jolie has had her ovaries and fallopian tubes removed to avoid the risk of ovarian cancer, a move experts described as courageous and influential. After reducing surgery, patients are usually monitored, but the benefits are unclear, and each case needs to be considered individually. So that's the same. Those are two sentences within the same article. They experts describe her decision as courageous and influential, and what the Angelina Jolie effect was that a lot of women went out and had double mastectomies, had the genetic testing, were told, well then, now that you have these genes, why don't we just remove your breasts? That way you don't get breast cancer. Why don't we just remove your ovaries so that you can't get ovary cancer? So I've got a way to cure and prevent the entire world from ever having another man die of testicular cancer. It's called a rubber band. I mean, that's how ridiculous this is.
Yeah.
In the same sentence, they say she's courageous, she's influential. But a little bit later, they say the benefits are unclear. So the experts are actually honest. So what I would say is, if somebody has been told they need to have a hysterectomy for that reason, we need to talk. We need to go through the research. Because I could probably guarantee you, if your physician is honestly telling you to have a hysterectomy because of that reason there. And there are other reasons they would say have a hysterectomy. It could be endometriosis, it could be cervical cancer, it could be things like that. There might be a time, if the tumor or cancer is aggressive enough or large enough, that, you know, having a hysterectomy, hopefully retaining, especially if you're under the age of 45, retaining your ovaries is extremely important for your health and well-being long term, and even short term. And I'll go through some of those studies. But, you know, I'm not saying never. You know, if it buys you time to correct the cause of what's going on and driving that illness so that you can live a longer and healthier life, then something like a hysterectomy might be beneficial. But in terms of like the genetic, so again, this question is coming out. It's very broad in terms of what is the reasoning the physician is advising her go under the knife and have a hysterectomy. You know, that's extremely important for me to know as a physician, to say, hey, what are some other things we can do? You know, I've had a woman who was in her 20s. She wanted to have a child. Okay, so she had cervical dysplasia, basically precancerous tissue within her cervix, and she was told, we need to do a hysterectomy, prevent you from future, you know, cervical cancer. Well, she wanted to have a child, so she waited several years until her and her husband had a child. Once they had a child, they redid the biopsy. You still have cervical cancer. Let's go ahead and cut it out. She had just so happened to come into my clinic, not for that reason, but come into my clinic because she wanted chiropractic care because of headaches. And I told her, give me 3 months. Just give me 3 months. I literally begged her. I'm like, 3 months. I believe your body has the power to heal. Do what I tell you. All right. Get the adjustments. Let's work on all the things that are good for your body that allow your body to heal. All right. 3 months later, after roughly, I think it was like 4 or 5 years of positive biopsies, she goes up, has another one. They cannot find cervical dysplasia anymore. She reversed it.
Awesome.
So, you know, there are possibilities, and surgery should be a last resort. It shouldn't be the first resort. As soon as you find disruption or dysfunction within the body, it shouldn't be like, oh, it's dysfunctional, it's not working right, let's go ahead and cut it out. It doesn't make any sense, you know, because that's not health restored. And the same thing, Angelina Jolie having organ body parts removed didn't restore health. It actually is likely to cause her a lot of health problems, and we could go through that. So, I don't know. You ladies, do you have questions or concerns, or is there anybody out there that has questions or concerns? Because, I mean, I could go through a PowerPoint presentation and just, like, hammer this home if we want to. You know, and that's just, it is truly sad that is the way our healthcare system runs. Right. Another unique thing that happened actually this week is yesterday I had a patient of mine. He came back in after he had neck and back pain. So he came in for the typical chiropractic care months ago, Comes in, I adjust him.
Springfield
a few
Memorial
times,
Gardens
and
and
he's
Funeral
out of
Home is
pain,
proud to
and he
present
never
the A15
returned.
weather.
Temperatures
For a
will
while.
climb through the
Came back in,
50s
he's
and
like, well,
60s as
doc,
we warm up
came
for
in
the morning.
severe
Look for a high of
pain,
75
leg
degrees
pain,
with partly
and
cloudy
then he also
skies and a
had
gentle
been
breeze
in
by this
Vanderbilt
afternoon.
for 5
Things stay
days
cooler for your
abdominal
weekend,
pain,
highs in the
intestinal
mid-60s with
problems.
sunny skies.
And
That's a look at your
so
forecast. I'm
he
number
said he's
one
sitting there,
net.
so he
When
comes
the
to
need
me
arises,
because
caller
literally he
visits
says
Springfield Memorial
Vanderbilt
Gardens
told
and
him,
Funeral
and I was
Home
like, this
at
is
4005
incredible. I
Memorial
was like,
Boulevard at Full
I've
Service
had
Funeral Home.
issues with the way sometimes Vanderbilt goes about policies and different things like that, and treatment of patients and requirements for, quote unquote procedures here recently, that if you want this procedure, you got to jump through these hoops, or you got to get this one thing that, we won't even say on air because of censorship, but, things like that. I disagree. But he says he's sitting there in the clinic or in the hospital for 5 days. He says he's got endocrinologists, gastroenterologists, he said neurologists, all these people in the same room. And he's like, yeah, the top doctor in the office, you get the one that like controls all the doctors, like the head of the entire, that's the way he's describing it. And he comes in, or he says he's sitting there, and they basically tell him, well, we don't know exactly what's going on. We can't determine it. We don't know what's going on. You may have Crohn's disease. You may have colitis. You may have all these different things. You may have your appendix was swollen, but now it's actually gone back to normal, and it's improved a little bit, but we really don't know what is going on.
And at that point, you should turn around and go out the door.
Well, yeah. So, I mean,
But they stay and they find out what they want to do.
But what they said was that he said one of the physicians actually, after basically being told, we don't know what's going on with you, and obviously you're in pain. We don't know whether it's neurological. We don't know whether it's like an autoimmune. We don't know. Your intestines are swollen, but we don't know exactly what's going on. One of the physicians said, you know what you should do? You need to go find you a natural doctor out there. You need to find somebody that will do a stool test, because they'll go into more in-depth study on factors. And what the reality, here's the difference. So like Vanderbilt or hospitals, they look on flow charts, they look on for the ability to check off boxes, to find blood markers, to find things out of balance on lab work, and say, oh, you have enough to qualify for this diagnosis. Or you have the specific marker, and now you have this diagnosis. So they spend a lot of their effort trying to label and figure out what is wrong with you, versus something like the stool tests we do, or I do in my clinic, and other doctors out there, is we look for risk factors that are driving mechanisms behind the increased risk or the contributing factors for the development of those classifications, those diagnoses that Vanderbilt would give this patient. So they said you need to get a stool test, you need to go to a chiropractor. Like the physician's like, you might as well try those things when we can't figure it out. Which I was kind of like, you should try those things before. Because again, you can look at various different risk factors. So I don't know if it's in this one or not, in this PowerPoint on Angelina Jolie. So anyways, Vanderbilt, thank you very much for sending me back my patient who, in one of the things I said to him, I said, well, here's the reality. I said, I got you out of pain more on neurological effects through increased movement of the joints of your spine. So like somebody who burns themselves, they wave their hand. It's not the air cooling their hand that gives them relief. It's actually the movement that stimulates areas of the brain that help us suppress pain. All right, and regulate the intensity of pain. You ever watch somebody who is in pain? Sometimes they'll almost like rock and sway. It's like they can't sit still. If they were to try and sit still, they'd actually be in more pain. So if they move or they pace around and they move, you know what I mean? It's like it's better to move than it is not to move, So, but I got him out of pain, and to his detriment, because I said, well, here's the reality. Let's look back at your x-rays. And I said, well, look at where the misalignments are in your spine. Look where they go. And we literally said, here's the spine, here's your lumbar spine, where the nerves go to your intestines. They branch from your lumbar spine and your sacrum, and they go right to your intestinal tract, your appendix, everywhere else. And I'm like, also those nerves go down your leg. He's got nothing wrong with his leg as far as like the ankle goes, but he's like, I literally have severe ankle pain. And that's where they're like, maybe it's rheumatoid arthritis. But he's like, it'll go from my ankle, sometimes it'll be in my knee, sometimes it'll be in my hip. But there's no pathology in
Temperatures
his knee.
will
There's
climb
no
through the 50s
pathology in
and
his
60s
ankle.
as we warm up
But
for the
that's
morning.
kind of the
Look for a high of
medical mindset. Typically,
75
look at the
degrees
ankle,
with partly
look at the
cloudy
knee, where the
skies and a
pain
gentle
is.
breeze by this
I
afternoon.
joked with him,
Things stay cooler
and,
for
I
your
joked around
weekend,
a
highs
bit
in the
because he's
mid-60s with
just
sunny
somebody
skies.
with severe pain.
Let's
He's
look at
like,
your
I don't care if
forecast.
they
I'm
move,
number
like,
one
I'm in
Ned.
pain,
Here's
like, I'm at a point
author
where
and
if
longtime
I have to
pastor's
tolerate this
wife,
rest of my life,
Jenny
I'd rather
Ortland.
cut off my leg.
What
I'm
you
like,
are
well, here's the
doing
problem.
may not
I'm
seem
like,
to
it's
be
a nerve
effective
problem,
or
it's a
fruitful
neurological issue,
in God's
and
grand
there's
scheme.
what is called
But God is
phantom pain.
always at
So
work.
people with prosthetics,
And
people
He
with
uses even
amputations, they can
our
have pain in a
meager
limb that is no
efforts.
longer there because of spinal misalignment sometimes.
This is Revive Our
Or
Hearts
what's
with
called
Nancy
central
DeMoss Walgley,
sensitization, which is
author
basically
of
brain
Adorn.
damage.
For
So it
Friday,
could be
October
spine,
7th,
brain,
by Dana Gresh.
work on both aspects. So he said I fixed his back, and I was like, no, I didn't. I just got you out of pain instead. And I was like,
Well, as we've been mentioning all this week, this is Pastors Appreciation Month.
that chiropractic
And here at
shouldn't
Revive Our
just
Hearts, we
be
want to do
about
whatever we
pain.
can to help you put into practice what we read in Hebrews chapter 13. It says, remember your leaders, those who spoke to you the word of God. Consider the outcome of their way of life
No, I'm glad you
and
brought that up because I know
imitate
somebody with
their
hip pain.
faith.
And
Now, one of the
doctors,
leaders in
no
your
one
church
figure
who
it out, and
can
they're like, oh,
easily
I
be
send you to an
forgotten
orthopedic. And it's
is your
like,
pastor's
I'm
wife.
going to send them to you.
Or maybe you have multiple
Good.
pastors in
And,
your church.
yeah, it's not in this
I want to just
PowerPoint
remind you that
presentation, but
these
it
women
is in
need
some of my cancer
encouragement too.
PowerPoint presentations that I've
One of the
done
ways we can
way
encourage
back
them
then.
is by
But
giving the gift
basically,
of
when we're talking
empathy.
about, like, genetics and things
Try
like
to put
that,
yourself in their shoes. Think
they
about
looked
some of the
at
unique
all
pressures that they might
available
experience
research on
simply by
genetics
virtue of
and their
being a
association with development
pastor's
of cancer.
wife.
Okay.
At our recent
So,
True Woman
what they
22
did at the
conference in
end of this
Indianapolis,
study, their
one of the
conclusions
breakout
for
sessions
these
was led by a
medical
longtime
physicians and
dear friend of
scientists, they
mine,
said that
Janie
if you take
Ortland.
into account
Janie
every
is
bit
the
of
wife
research we
of
have
Ray
on the
Ortland,
association
whose dad,
between
by the way,
specific
was my
genes that we
pastor
know
when
are
I was in
associated with
college.
breast cancer, ovarian
Ray Ortland
cancer,
Jr.
whatever
served as a
cancer,
pastor for nearly
or
50
you look
years.
at lifestyle.
And Janie and Ray together lead a
They
ministry
said,
called
we can
Renewal
better predict somebody's
Ministries.
risk of developing cancer
Janie hosts a
by a
podcast called
lifestyle
He
questionnaire
Restores
than we can
My
by
Soul.
any one of the genetic
She's the
testing
author of a
out
book
there.
that's called Help,
So should we say to
I'm
somebody
married
if they
to my
eat a
pastor.
standard American diet
And this book is
that
full of
is
practical
going to elevate their
encouragement
risk
for
of
ministry
cancer
wives
higher
and
than
those who
what
love them.
the BRCA
Now, we don't
1 and
have
2
time
gene that
today
every
to share
woman
everything
eating
Janie
the standard
said in that
American diet
breakout
should have her
session a
breast
couple
cut
of
off,
weeks ago. But
because
today we
that's
want
a
to hit
higher
some of the
risk
highlights.
than the gene.
And as you listen, ask
that make
God to
sense?
give you a
So if
greater degree of
logically, if the
appreciation
purpose
for
was
the
to prevent the
stresses
cancer
that
in
your
the breast,
pastor's
but
wife or the
lifestyle
wives
has
of
a
the
bigger
pastors in your
impact on
church
somebody's risk
may
of developing
experience.
cancer
Let's listen
in the
together.
breast than-
Here's
than the
Janie
genes
Ortland
do, but they're
speaking to a
using
group
genes to
of
say you
women,
should cut your
many of
breasts
whom
off, so
are
then should we
pastors'
say, well,
wives
lifestyle is a
themselves.
bigger risk factor, so therefore let's cut breasts off because lifestyle.
Well, I'm sure you
that they're
can
living
identify
is conducive to
with
development
this
of cancer.
lady who
It's just
called
insanity,
me a while
you know what I mean?
back, although
And again,
her
you
voice
go back
was new to me,
what
her
can
story was
the
not.
change in a better lifestyle, and better
I need
nutrition, and
help.
better way of life, less stress,
Her
things
voice
like that. What
quivered.
can they do to your health? Well, in a
And she
prostate
caught her
cancer
breath
study,
and
what
went
they
on.
found was
I
in
love my
3
husband.
months,
I love
3
my
months, there
children.
was a change.
And
a
I am
change in
totally
genetic
committed to the
expression.
Lord Jesus.
Close to 500 genes changed. They said it was roughly 400, and if I remember correctly, it was like 430 some increased in their expression for cancer prevention, and roughly 30 to 40, I forget exactly, maybe 50 genes that turned off that would promote cancer in men, in prostate cancer. So it's like in 3 months, you can change the expression of your genes by radically changing your lifestyle.
Wow.
Well, they
Wow.
tell every woman that
Yeah.
before they, So, I mean,
It's amazing.
yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, I mean, I'm sure some people are relieved to know, some people that do have the genetic,
Yeah.
situations in the family, they must
They
be
don't
like,
have
oh,
to go to that extreme.
yeah. I mean, they must realize that,
Yeah.
that lifestyle.
Now it's just they need coaches like myself, I believe, to help them understand what are the ways in which you can actually enhance the expression of that gene so that, and again, breast cancer risk after salpingo-oophorectomy, which is basically preventive ovary removal, in healthy BRCA1 and 2 mutation carriers. That's a mutation carrier. It's not the gene. So that's why I'm saying you want to increase the expression of that gene because the mutation of that gene lowers the expression. It's not completely unexpressed, because then from birth you would have
Right.
irregular and growing cells that would never die, and you would already have cancer at basically an infant.
Right.
So it's not just genetics. So you can turn up that expression. So.
Let's go ahead and hear from one of our sponsors, because I am
Yeah.
hearing something here that's
The
going
Health
on.
Kick Store is here to help you with your allergies and many other health concerns naturally. The Health Kick Store has been serving our community since 1993 and is our area's largest vitamin and herb provider. They are located at 511 Memorial Boulevard, Springfield, Tennessee, right next door to UPS. And guess what, seniors? You get 15% off information. Call 615-384.
Where the Wow Doc is going to be next month on the first Friday of the month. He is actually going to be doing an in-store appearance over there starting at 9:30, ending at 10:30, and he will do some little mini consultations while supply lasts. So make sure you get down there and line up so that you can see him, because normally you have to drive all the way to Clarksville, but Crystal over at the Health Kick Store is opening up her place for him. That is the first Friday of November at 9:30 a.m. Is the audio problem fixed?
I don't know. I just
Okay.
asked.
All right. So we are in here in studio with the Well Doc and Pat Samler, and we were talking about hysterectomies, because we did have a question come in about that. I don't know any other detail about that, but I know, I just said it to him when he came in. I said, hey, I
Yeah.
just got this question. And he's like, wow, he already has all this information. So that is awesome.
I would read from, because, go ahead.
He did say it was better, so just so you know.
Okay, the audio's
cool.
better.
They can
Good
hear us
deal.
now.
Okay, thank you.
But like this is NIH public access. So this is a study looking at the available science on premature menopause or early menopause long-term health consequences. So this would apply to any woman out there. If a woman has a absence, her menstrual cycle before the typical age 45 to 50 plus years, where they go into natural menopause. I think below 45 is where you really get into a high risk. But it's talking specifically, and a lot of the science in this is talking about the use of surgical procedures, hysterectomy, full hysterectomy, where you remove your ovaries. And so that sends a woman into early menopause. So I'm just going to fly through this. And again, I did a video, and if you go on thewilddoc.com and you look up, probably like, if you a search term would be like Angelina Jolie, if you found that, you're probably going to find this,
Oh,
the
great.
presentations I've
Okay.
done on this.
Okay.
The practice of prophylactic oophorectomy, that's removal of your ovaries, has increased over time and more than doubled from 1965 to 1990. Meanwhile, reports now link induced menopause from bilateral oophorectomy with serious health consequences, including premature death. Can we just like stop there? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, really.
So it more than doubled from 1965 to 1990 without any science showing benefit. This is the medical community. And if you're a medical physician who's frustrated that I'm reading this research out loud on a radio station, you're like, well, why is he's a chiropractor. Why would he ever read? He has no business talking about this. I get that all the time. You have no business cutting a woman's ovaries out when there was zero science to say that it could.
There's been zero
That-
science
yeah.
lately about a lot of
And
things.
now the science says it increases the risk of premature death. Cardiovascular, neurological disease, osteoporosis, in addition to menopausal symptoms, psychiatric symptoms, and impaired sexual function. Okay.
Is there anything that it doesn't
Yeah, I know.
cause
So this
terrible-
is Dr. Bernardo's colleagues, gynecological oncologist, Dr. Jason Knight. This is the article excerpt. This isn't from Angelina's,
Okay.
the article on Angelina from Reuters. Dr. Jason Knight said he hoped Angelina's latest announcement would spark important discussions among patients and their families and improve access to risk-reducing surgery for people who would benefit from it. You need science that
Risk-reducing.
shows it's beneficial.
Yeah.
Do you follow me? Like, this is the junk these medical physicians like this.
And it's not risk reducing.
It's not risk reducing, it's risk increasing.
Yeah.
It is a very personal decision and one that should be made with good medical information, he said. I completely agree. So let's go through the study, is what I said.
Yeah.
Even with estrogen therapy, oophorectomy at any age was associated with an increase in death, including coronary artery disease, lung cancer deaths. So lung cancer is more deadly than ovarian cancer. So if somebody had a severe ovary tumor, large ovary tumor that had immediate threat to life, I have a different opinion on the way I would see, like, if a family member or somebody had cancer. If the tumor itself at that moment in time is not large enough or invading a critical tissue needed for life at that very moment, my opinion is do not remove it. Because, again, there's very, very, very few tumors out there, cancers out there, that surgery really reduces your risk at all. You know, again, I can go back, find the article if somebody wants to kind of question me on this, but the reality is I believe it was like a neurosurgeon that said in an article, he said, we remove the tumor and we tell the patient, you're all set, you're cancer free, because what else can we do until it comes back? He's like, because the reality is you never get it all. You never get it all.
Because it's at the cell.
Yeah,
right?
it's at cellular level, and it came from your own cells. So the environment that allowed cancer to develop, if it's still there, it's just going to come about from your own cells. It didn't come about because you had an organ. It came about because the environment those organs are in, neurologically, immunologically, toxicity, those types of things, that's why cancer comes about in the body. So you got to remove those things that are interfering with real health, the ability to regulate cellular reproduction in life, and the immune system be able to identify and remove cancer cells. That's what you need to work on. So here's another statement here in this research paper. The most common adverse effect of bilateral oophorectomy were increased hot flashes, night sweats, vaginal dryness, dyspareunia, weight gain, and loss of interest in sex. So major decreases in quality of life, significantly greater anxiety, depression, and less positive well-being, more likely to be dissatisfied with their sex life and their partner's relationship, or Parkinson's disease.
Oh my goodness.
Cognitive impairment and dementia. I mean, now here's this is Lancet Oncology 2006, survival patterns after oophorectomy in premenopausal women, a population-based cohort study. Approximately 300,000 women are thought to undergo prophylactic bilateral oophorectomy every year in the United States. And again, look, what I just read, 300,000 women. So the medical community is doing something that has no science for benefit. It is on theory that if you remove the organ. And again, the problem with the research out there, and one of the research studies that I review in this video, in this PowerPoint that I could, is that, again, if I take a rubber band to every male and remove their testicles, how are you going to get testicular cancer? You don't have the organ. So if the question in a research study is, so if we remove the ovaries of these women, how many of them will die of ovarian cancer? Or if we remove the breasts of these women and we follow them for 10 years, and let's count the number of women who die of breast cancer or die of ovarian cancer without those organs. Oh, wow, it's a really small number of women who die from that. Because over here with women who actually still have their breasts and have their ovaries, there will be a small percentage that die of ovarian or breast cancer in that time period. But yet at the end, if you had 100 and 100, and let's say 80 lived, 20 died in the surgery group to have those organs removed, but only 90 lived and 10 died in the non-surgery group, and you had 3 women who died of breast cancer, and 2 women who died of ovarian cancer in that group, so you had 5 of them. You're in the whole 10 people over here. 10 women died early because of the procedure, but because they don't have the organ, then what the research paper can say is the surgery reduces the risk of dying from ovarian or breast cancer.
Gotcha.
That's what the research does.
But there's like 30 other things.
The total
that
mortality
they
doesn't matter
yeah.
to them. It's ask a very specific question and you will get a very specific answer. Are you less likely to die of testicular cancer if you put a rubber band around them right now? Yes, you are, because you don't have them. It's so immoral and unethical.
Somebody, I don't know if this is it probably is related, but as a question, it says, is there a way to get rid of fibroids without getting a hysterectomy?
Yeah. The body can resolve fibroids, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it happens very common. So,
like, is there something they should be doing to help promote that?
we need to figure out what risk factors are specific to that individual is what we'd want to do. So, again, because it could be a metabolic, it could be some hormonal issue going on, it could be some immunological type situation going on, and it could be neurological as well. So all of those components play into the opportunity for that individual to develop those fibroids. Mm-hmm. So now we need to work on and discuss what are those factors that are driving that. Okay. So, simple, plain and simple, like start where you can as an individual out there. Stop eating the SAD diet. Stop all processed food right now. Just do that.
And SAD diet stands for?
Standard American Diet.
Standard American Diet.
The Standard American Diet.
So nothing
just
processed.
Eat anything that God made, you know what I mean? In
Fruits,
its natural
veggies,
form.
meat.
And try not to allow man to change it at all. Mm-hmm. And if you do that, you will radically improve your health and situation in 99% of people. So, I don't know. You want me to keep reading this stuff or not? I mean, go ahead.
Keep going. But as far as save enough time, because there is off-subject questions.
Okay.
Okay.
You want to do our other commercial break right now?
Couple of those questions quick and hit those and see where we go.
Let me do our other announcement here for Southside, and then we'll have that out of the way.
Located at 1000 Main Street in the heart of downtown historic Springfield lies the Southside Drug Company, which has delivered hometown-friendly service since 1919. They offer medication therapy management, compression stocking fittings, nebulizers, monthly care packs in which you can get your medications rolled into strips of perforated packs, and free delivery within city limits. And my favorite, a healthy cafe for breakfast and lunch on weekdays. Store hours are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Saturday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. For more information, visit SouthsideDrugCo.com. Be sure to tell them Lee Marie sent you. The Health Kick store is here to help you with your allergies.
So that is Southside Cafe over on Main Street in Springfield Square. And before we get back to the Wild Doc, I am going to mention a couple calendar items here because these are things that are coming up actually really soon. So we already talked about the First Friday Market tonight, but also tomorrow there is a ton of stuff. And what I did was I went on my Facebook page and I shared all of those invites because it's impossible for me to cover them all. But I'll just let you know on one thing. October in Olinda Annual Fall Festival, they're having vendors, car show, a 4 on the Floor band, a bunch of stuff down in Olinda. So that is their big annual thing. So you're going to want to check that out. Also, tomorrow at 9 a.m. is a special needs fishing rodeo. And again, that invite's on my Facebook page. There is a fundraiser at Deja Mu, so an excuse to eat ice cream, but not very much because Wild Doc will get mad. But there is a fundraiser over there, and that's in Deja Mu in White House. And by the way, there is a Deja Mu coming to Springfield. Let's see. Also tomorrow, Fall on the Farm at Bernard Farms Custom Cuts and Market. So that's a tractor show, bounce house, games, free fall, a bunch of stuff, vendor shopping, and that's also where those piggy sessions are going to be. So for $25, you can get 5 pictures with little piglets between 9:30 and 2, which sounds really fun to me. Anyways, that is tomorrow, and again, I put that on my Facebook page. So there's a lot of stuff coming up, and then of course, don't forget that this coming Monday. I bet you want to see me, don't you? There you go. This coming Monday is the monthly TFA gathering, and so that is at the American Legion right there at 2730 Highway 41 in Greenbrier. So 6 o'clock is the feast, and 6:30 is the program. The gentleman that's coming on, Frank, has had over 25 years in law enforcement. He was a SWAT member. He does a lot of defensive classes and handgun and rifle classes. So, and he's a great speaker. So we're really happy to have him coming out this coming Monday. And again, it's a free event, all ages. And come on out to this Patriot Potluck. And that's Tennessee Firearms Association. If you need more information, I know the guys are going to be out tonight at the First Friday Market. So you can go ahead and see them there. All right. I know I do have a lot more of other things here as far as events, but I did put them on my Facebook page. So go ahead and look there because I want to hear more from Wild Doc while we have him here. Okay. So did you have anything else on that you want to cover before we go to the next question?
I mean, there's probably too much to cover.
Okay.
Try and scan through it, but
you said they can click on, is it on your website?
On the website, yeah, thewilddoc.com. There's they would be able to find the Angelina, and I think it's on YouTube yet too, as well. Should pregnant mothers get the influenza shot? That one got taken down.
Really?
What's funny is I read the research. That's all I did was read.
Oh my gosh.
What's funny is Bill Gates actually funded a research study in Africa. There's only 2 placebo-controlled trials on that in the world, and they weren't done until recently. Bill Gates funded them. The results are telling.
Wow.
One of the conclusions was that you could rule out a more than 152% increase in fetal loss. You could rule out a more than. That was the findings of the first placebo-controlled trial in pregnant women receiving that.
Wow.
Also, the CDC funded a study, and because we're heading into the season, the CDC funded a study that showed a 600% increased risk. It was over a 600% increased risk if women received consecutive for fetal loss.
Terrible.
Especially in the first, it was primarily in the first trimester. And like my question was, I actually sat down with Mark Green and presented that study to him. He'd never read it. He said he'd look into it. Sadly, nothing. I mean, I'm so frustrated with people, these days. And to me, I was like, I even asked the question, I'm like, at a bare minimum, if the biggest risk was in the first trimester, why don't they at least just say, wait till the second or third, if they believe it's so beneficial? But yet this study is funded by our government, is the only trial looking at this. Published. The highest quality, they literally say it's the only and best published quality study on this subject. Why don't they do that? Sorry to get off topic, but there's so much going on in deception in this world that's leading parents when they love their children. They want to provide for their children. They want to protect their children, So.
Wow. Oh, that reminded me. I saw something. I don't know if it's true. I just read it actually last night that the National Guard, did you hear that they were giving the National Guard flu shots and they actually gave them the COVID shot?
No, I'd believe it.
So I just saw that last night and I didn't have time to do any other research on that. And then another thing I heard, and I don't know if this is true, but
I have multiple soldiers right now in my clinic
really?
With myocarditis now. One of which was actually told he had actually gone into the military with a approved religious exemption, which the military you can still acquire. It's difficult. It's got to be approved from like the highest up, like the from what I understand, the Surgeon General. But he was in the military for all these years, but he speaks, I believe, Russian and Ukrainian. So he's like, okay, this is prime time. We need you to deploy. But they said you wouldn't be able to go through certain countries to travel with our military if you didn't get it. So basically, he's like, for the team, I'm like, you know what? Who cares? I need to be there with my other soldiers. Well, he can't deploy now. He's got such bad myocarditis after the shot.
Oh my gosh.
So he didn't get to go with his team, even though he wanted to sacrifice, and say, okay, this one thing I'll set aside. My strong belief, my religious belief, I'll set it aside for a second. And it's so heartbreaking, And these guys, it's ridiculous.
So you have multiple soldiers there that have that
myocarditis.
Do you know about how far after they got the shot that they got the myocarditis?
So, what they're saying is like for cardiac tissue damage is actually a lot more than what is symptomatic. Typically, symptomatology occurs fairly quickly. Is what again, because the correlation to something has to happen in a timely manner. So do we have like is it really the highest peak is 2 weeks? That's kind of what some say. But again, you know, the long-term effects of myocarditis, even a single event, which the CDC attempts to claim that once a kid recovers from it, that they're good to go. But yet I have military studies on the smallpox shot, and they actually say that a single bout of myocarditis, even levels of troponin elevation, which is a blood marker for heart tissue damage, muscle tissue damage in the heart, even a single elevated level, very minutely, increases all-cause mortality throughout the lifetime of that individual.
Oh my gosh.
And then the exercise-induced cardiac arrest, things like that. So
is that why we've been seeing a lot of athletes just
that's the, you know, we would be considered conspiracy theorists, but you got to say this.
Well, I mean,
what
I
changed?
Yeah, and there's like, what are the percentages of, you know, like children, you know, getting myocarditis? I mean, it's like way up there now, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's
now the CDC has just put out on their Facebook pages and stuff like that. Hey, if you're a medical physician, we want you to know that by 2050, the number of people who will be on blood thinning medications is going to more than double. If you want to better understand how to take care of your patients with these medications, hey, get on our class. Literally, that's the CDC right now.
Wow.
So what do we know about the spike protein? I mean, we're living in a day and age that just evil rules, evil runs free, the lawless one, you know, and it's that they're outside the law. And that's what we're seeing right now, that these organizations, these drug companies, they're outside the law, you know? It's
What's so sad is that, you know, I know a young man that was barely 19 that decided to go get the...
Yeah. I'm like, we're going to be censored. We better watch out.
And
what happened?
Immediately, I mean, he's going to be on heart medication for the rest of his life because of myocarditis. The rest of his life, he said.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
God doesn't say that. I feel there could be hope, you know?
Yeah,
I would love to see, because, you know, I would love to see what, so depending on if he's having AFib and things like that, I've seen people even, U-Turn Laverne's husband, his heart rhythm after adjustments, it's back in normal rhythm now, you know? So we have a positive effect to the nervous system and the heart function. If caused damage to his heart tissue, okay, there's damage there, but how can we increase the function? How can we reduce the stress in that heart? That's one thing that I believe we could help with. And then how do we help revascularize the heart tissue if that's one of the mechanisms by which it was damaged? And then like hyperbarics. I would love to see what hyperbarics does for these individuals that have been injured, or even, again, like the last time I was in here talking about long haul COVID and some of the cardiac issues and tissue damages and things like that, that medicine, the medical community said were permanent long haul COVID type issues that the person would not recover from. Well, hyperbarics actually help those people recover because it stimulates a lot of regenerative capability in the body. And so, you know, you look at why they use hyperbarics in the U.S., sadly, it's saved until somebody's like at the point where they're going to life or limb. Like they're going to die or you're going to lose a limb. And then we'll do that. And wow, it helps people save their life and regenerate tissue and accelerate healing. What if that could help restore the healing to his heart? And, you know, that's a possibility. Those are strategies that I personally would be using. That's why I incorporate those things in my clinic.
And a lot of people have been told that they have, you know, damage that can't be reversed or repaired, but actually
there's a possibility, yeah.
And that's great news. Yeah.
So we probably should get to this other question.
Okay,
It's
go
like
ahead.
10-tell.
Right.
So the question was, I haven't been officially diagnosed with kidney disease. However, my labs showed a GFR of only 43. Specialists cannot see me until December 21st. Question is, what can I do in the meantime to increase kidney function or at least stop the decline? Is there diet, supplements, etc.?
So one, I would say look at the nerve root areas in your spine that travel to the kidneys. Make sure that there's clear pathways from the brain to the body, because if we cut the nerves that go to the kidneys, it's going to shut the kidneys down. So I've seen a guy that was literally like calculated like on the path, diabetic. So he had another risk factor on his way to developing kidney or needing kidney dialysis. He's on his
I'm
path
Ron
to
Jordan
kidney
with
failure.
your Mid-State Update
And we brought his
from
kidney function back to
WSGI
100%
News.
without anything
The
else
Tennessee
to try to
Department of
practice it.
Transportation says traffic volumes
Some
have
people
increased
think I'm
by more than
crazy doing
60%
diabetes
in the
and
Murfreesboro-Rutherford
chiropractic
County
care.
segments of
Well, I bring up
I-24
a
since
surgical neurology
2005.
In the
TDOT
surgery
finished
journal, they
designing Phase
decompress
1 of
surgery
their
in the brainstem
I-24
of
Smart
type 2
Corridor
diabetics
project in
after
2018
decompressing
and
the
are now
brainstem,
approaching the
actually
finish
reverse
line for Phase
diabetes.
2.
Wow.
That involves
That's huge.
installing overhead
bring up
message
kidney
boards over each
function,
lane that will
neurological
display
aspects,
yellow and red
that type of
X's,
thing.
green arrows, and the current recommended speed limit,
But just
depending
kinda
on
like
traffic
running through
conditions.
some of the stuff.
A Nashville Animal Rescue Center is headed to Florida to help clear local shelters and make room for dogs displaced by Hurricane Ian. Agape Animal Rescue is currently on the way to Orlando to relocate 15 to 20 of the 300
What was that,
adoptable
Astro
dogs
one?
to Nashville. The Animal Rescue is also
Proton
working
pump
alongside
inhibitors.
Best
I'm just
Friends
reading
Animal
through, so I
Society's
just typed in
disaster
kidney
response
on the
team
computer
to help the
search
displaced
engine, and it
pets.
says proton pump inhibitors
Wilson
increase
County
kidney,
recently helped people get their
disease,
records
common painkillers
cleared.
increase
A
kidney
criminal
disease,
record, even
popular
after
weight loss
completing a
drugs
sentence, can
increase
be an
kidney
obstacle when
disease,
applying for a
BPA
job,
or
trying to get a
plastics
driver's
linked to
license,
increased
or
kidney
trying to go to
dysfunction and
college.
disease in children.
37 people
So
recently got
they
help
eliminate
at an
all of
event
those things if
organized
you're
by
on
the
those.
American
So
Job
proton
Center
pump
in
inhibitors or
Cumberland
your
University.
antacids
Organizers
can,
say it was so
so your
successful,
heartburn
they plan on hosting
medications.
expungement clinics every 6 months. Reports say an arson suspect was caught on video trying to burn down the weekend hang suite.
But here's
The owner of the
He
popular...
also has that reflux, so what would you do about that then?
Yeah, I mean, we need to work on the aspects of the GI tract that are causing it. Eliminate all sugar in the diet. All sugar. It's amazing what just the elimination of all sugar does for heartburn patients many times.
Well, that's good. Good inspiration for that, because I know there's a lot of us that are.
You want
have
to
too
hear an
much
off
sugar.
the wall type of? I just think it's unique. You know, beneficial effects. So I'm reading from the University of Michigan's Journal of American Medical Association. So this is JAMA. All right. So this is like way back when. That was downloaded in 2015. I'm looking for the date on this. So some of these are 1940s. The exact date on this study. If you look back at different research papers that were done in like the early 1930s, 40s, that type time period, obviously one of its references in this journal article is from 1947, so it was before that. But the title of it is Beneficial Effects of Measles on Nephrosis. Nephrosis is disease or inflammation of the kidneys. So several reports have published indicating that beneficial effects of measles on the course of nephrotic syndrome in children. They say that parents or physicians would see a gratifying improvement that frequently occurs after an attack of measles. Induced measles experimentally prompted remission occurred in 2 patients. So they've published studies that actually giving people measles,
Oh my gosh!
infecting them with measles, actually resolved kidney problems.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. Okay, so
I'm not saying the guy should go out and get measles.
Yeah.
Just as a liability thing.
Right.
But it's like, well, how many people have? And if you look like papers like in here, like a huge increase in kidney disease in the United States. The prevalence of kidney disease from the time period before we had the measles vaccine to now has gone exponentially up. Is there a possibility that there are benefits to infectious illness? There are. Like mumps reduces a woman's risk of ovarian cancer. Now ovarian cancer has gone up since we started that shot. And it's just, but yet you can't deny that there is a benefit there.
Yeah.
Yes, if somebody is susceptible, I don't care if it's the common cold, it can take somebody out if they're in a situation of severe susceptibility. But that goes back to if we were focusing on the dynamics of health all the way around, we'd be reducing the risk of susceptibility to infectious illness as well as cancer, and then we could benefit from the infectious illness as we reduce their susceptibility, enhance their ability to efficiently fight off that virus or any virus, and then their exercise regimen of that illness, that temporary infectious illness, now provides them with better immunity to fight cancer in their future.
Why is sugar so bad? Why does it stop our immune system?
And also, the
triggering of insulin is very detrimental, both on so that hormone automatically kind of suppresses other hormones. The association of higher insulin suppresses tissue regrowth, immune production and activity, increases inflammatory responses,
is
that type
fruit,
of thing.
Natural sugars like in fruit too?
Not really, no. Fruit natural sugars from like if you extract high fructose corn syrup, so it's like a sugar from corn. If you extract it and now take it isolates, it's very harmful. But if you're eating a orange or you're eating an apple, as long as somebody doesn't have insulin resistance where their body can't read and utilize insulin to get sugar out of the bloodstream, those fruits those fruits with high sugar, higher sugar are not detrimental in that way. No.
Okay. And is it okay if somebody has bad numbers with their kidneys to do a detox, like a parasite detox or a kidney detox?
It depends on what herbs maybe they're taking. Curcumin or turmeric is a very good herb for kidney disease as well. So that's been shown to reduce the inflammation in the kidneys and reverse it. So certain herbs would be beneficial. It kind of depends on the individual.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very good information. Well, we have, about 4 minutes left here. I'm so excited, that you get to, that all of our listeners and viewers out there get to meet you next Friday.
Next Friday. Next month's first Friday.
It is
November.
Let's get the,
right?
let's look up the
First
date.
Friday of November.
Yes. Thank you.
The next show that I'm in town for.
Yes, November 5th. No, November 4th. Yes, November 4th. So thank you for
yeah, no worries.
Yeah, because we, some people were saying this Friday and different stuff.
Yeah.
I thought that's what it was, and I was saying
That's
it on
okay.
Wednesday. I was
That's all
on
right.
the radio Wednesday
if they
saying,
don't
"Hey,
have-
I
everybody."
thought I was, and then I totally forgot. I kind of said I would be up for it.
Right.
I said I'll be up for it. I had to check with the wife, and then it took me a little bit of time to check
That's
with the wife.
okay.
And we were going to
the
Chattanooga
worst thing that can happen
camp
is some
this
people
weekend.
will show up at Health Kick Store a week early, and that's okay.
Right.
Walk around.
Yeah.
They got a lot of great things there. So,
I just don't want to be deceiving. He
I
won't be
know.
there today, guys. Sorry.
so the first Friday of November, Wild Doc will be at the Health Kick Store. But remember, the first Tuesday of the month, and I think, is this Tuesday the first Tuesday of the month? I think it is. Let's see here. What are we in? We're in October. No. We're already way past that. Okay, never mind. I was going to say I thought it was the first Tuesday. I'm already in November myself. But anyway, yes, we've gotten so much great information from you, and I'm really excited that some people who haven't got to meet you in person get to meet you in person next Friday at 9:30. So 9:30.
First Friday of
First Friday of November. Yes, first Friday of November.
The next
Not next
time
Friday.
Dr. Dale's in town.
And not today.
yes. So that'll be awesome. And people, if you want, you can message me on Facebook if you want to maybe schedule your times, because that's one thing we could do is, schedule
brief
people. And if they're there, then they can
consults.
Yeah.
Give you a taste of what I do in my clinic.
Because it makes sense, if your spine isn't aligned and you can't get the right things to the right organs, of course it's like they're getting cut off from nutrition or whatever, so they're going to go bad.
Yep. They don't work efficiently when the master control, the governor of everything else in the body. It's our brain and spinal cord. It governs every function. It turns our immune system on or off. It turns inflammation up or it turns inflammation down. And again, like that journal of surgical neurology, decompressing the brainstem, which removed an interference between the brain and the body, actually improved blood sugar regulation. And they said in the article that it wasn't as effective. So some of the patients woke up out of whatever, under anesthesia, once they had removed the tissue around the brainstem to decompress it. Once they did that, some of these people wake up and they no longer had diabetes.
Wow.
Now when I tell people all the time, I'm like, so is it that far-fetched to think that what chiropractors have been saying for 100+ years now, that if your spine is in proper alignment and there's less pressure and stress on the nerves or spinal cord, then your body functions better, it heals better, it regulates your blood sugar better, that we might see a certain percentage of people reverse diabetes with chiropractic care, and I've seen that time and time again in my clinic.
All right, give people your contact information.
But I wanted to say it wasn't as effective for obese patients, because that's what I wanted to point out, is that there's multiple factors.
Focus on the family. We know you want to see your grandchildren follow Christ. Here's how you do that. The Legacy Grandparenting Summit, the only national conference on Christian grandparenting. Coming to over 100 locations on October 20th and 21st. You'll find wisdom, direction, and inspiration from speakers including Ann Graham Lotz and Miles McPherson. Register now for the Legacy Grandparenting Summit at legacycoalition.com/summit.
Awesome. Thank you. And Ms. Pat,
this program is sponsored by Focus on the Family, a listener-supported ministry helping families thrive in Christ.
Hey, this is Jim Daly, and before we begin today's Focus on the Family broadcast, I wanted to spend a few minutes talking with our good friend Morgan Weisling. Morgan is the amazing artist who's been working with Focus for several years now, creating these wonderful paintings with a powerful family and faith message. And his newest painting is one of the best I've seen yet. Hey, Morgan, it's great to talk with you from California. How are you?
Good, Jim. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. This painting, it just captures everything.
So
and I love it. Describe this new painting for us.
Well,
we will be back next Wednesday with the Go Show, but I will see you all tonight at the First Friday Market. And then just remember that tomorrow there's a lot of stuff going on, and I posted a bunch on my Facebook page, Lee Marie. The profile picture says, "Put God at the center of everything." So have a great weekend, and we will see you soon. God bless.